Hi and welcome to Natural Aesthetics. This is a back training video showcasing a faster, looser form style of training that, in my opinion, can be extremely conducive to building bigger muscles, especially for your pull or back workouts. Now, I'm not saying that you should train like this on every exercise for every workout, but utilised here and there can really provide a benefit, I think, especially if you're used to training with very strict form. The reason for that is quite simple. It's more potential for overload. You can go above and beyond what you're used to doing, both in terms of the amount of reps you're doing and the weight used, which I'll explain in a bit. As far as I know, there's no research that suggests either loose form or strict form for back training is superior over long periods of time. I'm just going on how it feels for me, my experiences as a natural bodybuilder and my experiences with training clients over the last 10 years. For me, I tend to think of loose form as an advanced training technique, something to utilise every now and again to really jack up the intensity of an exercise. It allows you to do more reps on a given weight than you would otherwise do with strict form, and it also allows you to lift heavier than you would otherwise perform with stricter form. So there are two potentials for increased intensity. Training with looser form for back enables you to train past the point of failure. So the intensity can be very, very high all the way through a session. So for example, if you're training lat pull downs and you're utilising very strict form, 60 kilos, you manage 10 reps with perfect form and then you stop the set there, that's it. You then rest and go for another set. With looser form training, you're able to go past that 10 reps. You're able to maybe squeeze out 14, 15, 16. So you're able to massively increase the intensity of that set and further the muscle building stimulus. The loose form reps are not so completely ineffective that you're not going to gain anything from it. You're still contracting the muscles under load. You're still controlling the weight on the negative phase of movement. There's a lot more weight added up over that set that you wouldn't have got to if you're using perfectly strict form. It's also important to remember that there are different strength potentials across the movement of a given exercise. So for example, on the low row, your positive phase of movement will be the pull. So as you're pulling towards your stomach, the negative phase of movement will be from the stomach back to an arms outstretched position. Then you have a static position where you would maybe hold the weight with arms outstretched, or you would hold into the stomach, or any point across that trajectory. And each of those three movements has varying levels of strength potential. The weakest of those three is the positive phase of movement, so the pull into the stomach. So if you're only ever training with strict form, you're only ever limiting yourself to that positive phase of movement, which is, as I said, the weakest of the three. There's a lot of extra load left on the table, really, because you're able to handle so much more on the negative phase of movement. This is a technique that's been used for years with HIT training, doing negative style reps, or even force negatives, where you have a training partner that would push down on the negative to add extra load because it's such a strong movement, so much stronger than the positive phase of movement. And therefore, with extra load comes extra muscle damage, extra potential for growth. If I were training with a partner, then I would utilise negatives and force negatives especially on a very regular basis, because I think the potential was just so great for building muscle. Unfortunately, I train on my own, so I utilise loose form to kind of tap into some of those gains. And I'm not saying I'm controlling the weight, in a very, very strict and slow manner here, but the tension is still running through the lats as I control it. I like to keep the weight moving fairly fast, but the point is that I'm not limiting myself to positive movement failure. I'm going past that and I'm using a weight that becomes taxing on the negative phase of movement as well, which a lot of trainees never get to experience because they're too scared of using a bit of momentum or using weights that are very, very heavy. For me as well, this style of training is quite fun. I genuinely enjoy it. So it certainly makes it easier to adhere to, especially when you're doing something day in and day out, every week of the year for years on end, which is the only way you're ever going to see results as a natural bodybuilder. It kind of, makes sense to make the workout somewhat enjoyable every now and again. That being said, this style of training is very difficult. It will really hammer your conditioning, so be prepared for that. It's a lot harder than strict training, in my opinion. Just be aware of progressive overload and the ease of adding in too much momentum too quickly. It will kind of throw off your strength on certain exercises. You don't really know where you stand, so make sure you do some strict exercises where you have a really good understanding of where you are on certain exercises and kind of the progression that needs to take place on a week-to-week basis without just kind of adding in more and more momentum as the weeks go by. You can't start putting the weights up and you just compensate by using even more momentum. So it can be an issue that you need to keep an eye on. So thanks for watching, guys. Hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, give it a thumbs up, please. Subscribe to see more natural bodybuilding videos. Email naturalaesthetic@outlook.com for more info on online training. Very affordable prices for natural lifters and bodybuilders. Stay strong.